Start the meeting. Thank you. Call to order. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Mayor Truppen,
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson Sartella, Commissioner Samaria,
Here.
Commissioner Tudor,
Here.
Commissioner Wise.
Here.
Stand for the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you read someone just do that? Okay, are there any deletions or withdrawals to the agenda?
I do.
Commissioner Wise, go ahead.
Thank you. I have an addition, as you can see, the Brand Foundation and Expression for
Okay.
discussion.
And just
add it wherever you will. I'm not picky.
okay, no problem. Why don't we add that? Is it a discussion item? Okay, from what I read. Okay. We'll work on getting these in timely so that they're published for everybody in the public. For now, let's go ahead and put it, if we may. It seems to fall under 12B. So what I'd like to do is move mine to 12D and put Commissioner Wise's at 12C. So let's make it a B and a B1. How's that? Would that solve it? It's going to go before mine because it fits in with the other. Okay.
I wanted to have a discussion on the, I noticed that there was a change of the format on the agenda, the top part that I wanted to have a discussion on that.
Okay. We'll put that under 12D.
12D? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also, an update on the, in reference to, we're supposed to have the 26th is supposed to be the meet and greet. I think Christian, we talked about it, but I just wanted to just put it on there just to have a better discussion on it.
We can cover that in the manager's report at the end if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and start presentation. We have a presentation of the holiday winners of the holiday house decoration. The presentation will be done by Commissioner Samaria and by Rosemary Weiss.
Thank you. Oops. I think the residents are here. Well, this part was, she wasn't going to be here, so now that she's here, this is going to be funny. First, I would like to thank Rosemary, who helped put out together this event. Without her, this could not have been done. Second, I would like to thank all the residents and judges for taking part. Third will be to do this again later this year. It was a huge success. Finally, I would like to announce the winners and present them with the trophy. And if the resident is not here, I will be personally presenting them with them. Yeah, number 3. Okay, number 3, we took the... Yeah, you can read it. Okay. We took a picture, but I lost it in my picture, so...
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes. Third place winner, Sue Herrera, 1100 121st Street. Oh, okay. Second place winner, Jaime Leon, if I'm not pronouncing it properly, I'm sorry, from 9th Court at 111th. And first place, of course, Tony and Marianne Duva, 116th and 8th Avenue.
I think next year we're going to have to come into a special category just for them.
Outstanding.
It was a huge success. This year what we're going to do is we're going to do it later on in the year. I expected people to put out their stuff right after Thanksgiving. I was wrong. They waited until later on. But we're also going to have this year Halloween. Last year there's a lot of people who had a lot of decorations for Halloween. The reason for doing this is to get the residents to participate. And it was very good when we were on the right one. And hopefully we'll get better participation. I just wanted to thank everybody that participated.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Rosemary, can you repeat the addresses, please?
Dan.
Could you repeat the addresses, if you would,
Yes.
Rosemary?
Rosemary, can you repeat the addresses?
Oh, I'm sorry. Third place winner,
Speak into the mic, please.
I'm sorry. You can't hear me without a microphone. Third place winner is Sue Herrera, 1100 Northeast 121st Street. Roseanne, I can give you this piece of paper.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you don't have to write.
Just to be on the record.
Give me this. Okay. Works for me.
You just don't want to hear your voice speak. That's what it is. That's okay.
I don't want to wear out the microphone.
We had about 22 people that participated, so it was a good turnout.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to public comments. Open the floor for public comments related to the agenda items and good and welfare.
Good evening. Rox Ross, 11166 Griffin Boulevard. Feels a little strange being on this side. Just first, I wanted to start off with a little housekeeping item on the minutes for the December 4th meeting. It's item 6 at the top of page 2. It says Commissioner Ross spoke about the legislative priorities and the participation of all commissioners. That sounds like all the commissioners participated in the legislative priorities, doesn't it? How nice. I don't know if you were listening on December 4th, but the summary presented in these minutes is the exact opposite of what I said. I had to go back and watch the entire meeting because the first draft of minutes attributed me with comments on the election and installation process when I never spoke a word on that topic. You'll get to vote on these minutes tonight. Do you want them to be correct? And by the way, the minutes are supposed to reflect what exactly occurred without editorial comment from the transcriber. My main reason for speaking tonight has to do with improvements. I know a couple of you have made improvements around your homes in the village, and at least one other has shared that a driveway is under consideration. It takes quite a lot of time to sort through the options and come to a decision depending on the size of the project. No doubt personal preferences factor in, as well as the cost of the project, the value of your home, and potential growth in value are also factors that are weighed in consideration. I was excited to hear about the special meeting that was called December 19th to create a list of strategic planning of legislative priorities, as it's phrased in the minutes. I had to work late that night, but watched the video online with mixed emotions. Glad that State Senator Pizzo and his staff participated, but disappointed, no, actually a bit embarrassed, that people considering and deciding on improvements in the village could not answer a basic question that the senator asked. What was the taxable value of the village? We just went through an extended budget process with a correction that needed to be made, and not one, not a new one, not a seasoned commissioner, not even the village manager could answer with an estimate, which is upwards of $217 million. This is the language of the field that you've chosen to play in these days. So you need to get used to it, and you need to acquaint yourself with these, with this data. If you're gonna be making decisions for the village, it's important. You can't just pull numbers out of the air and make decisions in a vacuum. Then, listening to the meeting, it took an astounding turn that could not have been predicted from the agenda and backup. I learned that the consensus now is that the roadway resurfacing, I'll just wrap it up. The roadway resurfacing, which was so imperative that the requests were rushed to Tallahassee by the mayor without anyone's
I'm sorry, you're
input,
going to have to finish it up. Thank you.
is now ill-planned. Instead, the priority, number one funding priority, is water pipes, a sewer system, and drainage. A sewer system is not even mentioned in our
time is up.
comprehensive
You have 3
plan.
minutes. You're aware of the time limit. I'm sorry. Thank you.
A sewer system is a huge
As I said,
undertaking.
time is up. No, that's not how that works. I'm sorry, time is up. Thank you.
This is important.
Thank
And
you.
especially the new commissioners should listen to this.
Thank you.
So I would, after 9 years of service on this commission, I would beg that you allow me another 60 seconds to complete this thought.
Can I?
30 seconds, go.
Sewer system's a huge undertaking. The numbers that were batted around at that meeting were around $70 million, which is about 1/3 of the amount of the entire village's property values. But I guess you probably didn't know that at the time, since you couldn't answer the question. It's a huge undertaking that is a long-term and maybe,
Thank you.
it probably has plenty of
I'm
merit.
sorry.
But
I'm sorry, you
this
understand the
topic
time limit. I'm
has
sorry, I'm
not
going to ask you to be
been-
respectful of the time limit and
This
to
hasn't
stop.
been a topic of study and not even discussion in the community.
Commissioner, former mayor, I respectfully ask that you respect the time limit. Thank you. Thank you.
You have a lot of catching up to do, and
That's
you just
enough.
made the task harder.
That's enough. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could just ask that anyone who approaches the microphone for public comments follow the rules of decorum. I think they were just violated by the resident who spoke to you personally just now.
Thank you. Any other further public comments?
Chuck Ross, 11166 Griffin Boulevard. A number of residents spoke at the December meeting concerned that the charter had been violated. The new commission was not sworn in within the time frame prescribed by the charter. In my mind, the charter violation in this case isn't the current concern so much as the dismissive behavior of the mayor towards the residents. The time delay to certify the election caused a time lapse that was only a few days. However, I believe that this excuse was a convenient set of facts that fit the circumstances used to dismiss the residents' concerns, and it was created after the fact. Again, the dismissive attitude towards the residents is the problem. Further to the point, who, if anyone, made the decision to defer the swearing in, or who is steering the ship? Is it Christian? Is it Tracy, as most of us believe?
Out of
And
respect for
if
the
so, it would
decorum,
be a charter violation.
I'm
Or
going
are
to
we
ask you
just
to address
aimlessly
this
drifting out to
condition as
sea
a whole,
with no one at the
and
wheel?
also to
We need a
address
stable
the people
leader to
by their
guide the
names.
village, and we don't have one right now. Next to
This is
charter
the-
violation,
if you'll read the
connection with
decorum
legislative
rules, I'm gonna
request
tell you
presented
again,
at the December
Attorney
regular
Herring.
meeting by Rox Ross.
Attorney Hearn.
Excuse me, all. Under the code, I'm vested with the responsibility for being the parliamentarian. And I say this with all due respect to everyone, residents and council members equally, and staff as well. There is a decorum statement that the council has adopted. I'd ask that everyone acquaint themselves with it and keep their comments consistent with the decorum. And we can agree to disagree. I don't like to be the parliamentarian and interrupt the mayor or members of the public to say, let's conduct ourselves as inconsistent with the decorum statement. But I will if I have to. I don't want to, because I have all the respect for everyone. So if the comments can be focused on what your concerns are, both back and forth as opposed to personal attacks, I think that the meeting will run smoother, be over quicker, and not compromise everyone's ability to say what's on their mind. That's my 2 cents worth. I will.
You just took up most of my time, you know.
I'm
And by the way, they never voted on those rules. You're incorrect, sir. It was never adopted by the council. It's been slapped on the agenda, never been voted for. So, sorry, you stand corrected, John. So, am I out of order by speaking on what I have concerns about at the last meeting?
No.
Oh.
No one is out of order.
Thank you.
And I'm not interrupting, I'm not taking anyone's time. What I'm simply saying is that we are all best served by refraining from personal comments or comments directed to individual council members, members of the public. We can convey our message that we want to in a general sense without criticizing or attacking individual members of the council or the public, or vice versa. For whatever it's worth, Chuck, that's what I believe, good, efficient government.
I have concerns about the behavior that's going on, and I think it's important that it be heard. But I could do it as far as a written statement, or the purpose actually in the end game here was to have this examined, the mayor's behavior, as a special agenda item, because there were charter violations that were committed, and you can't address it to anyone but other than the people that committed the charter violation.
I want to make this very clear. You can call the ethics board, you can write it up, you can do whatever you think is appropriate if you think I've acted accordingly. But what I'm going to suggest is your personal attacks, which have been continuous and nonstop for almost 2 years now.
That's not correct.
Yes, it is.
And they're not personal attacks.
And I'm going to
We're
finish what I'm
attacking
going to say, and then
position
your time will
as you
be.
operate. Actually, I have the floor here, you don't. Sorry. So the personal attacks that
Okay.
you're claiming, that you allege
We're going to take a break.
are-
We're going to adjourn this meeting right now. We're going to take a break. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Again.
We have a vote on this, or can I adjourn it? Attorney Heron?
I have
think
the
we need a
floor
break.
as a parliamentarian. I have the floor as a parliamentarian. And I use this as an example. I have to get up very early tomorrow morning to drive over to the West Coast to participate in an emergency hearing that a property owner has asked a judge to hear a public records alleged violation of. And after going through all the matters and the discussion, with all due respect, Chuck, it was the allegations are, well, I think this occurred and that there was a sunshine violation, or
I never
council
used the word
gave
sunshine
direction.
violation.
If there is evidence of such an act, as the town attorney, you can provide me with that information, and I will look into it as in my capacity as the village attorney. But just to simply throw out, I think that someone may have done something wrong, and then name an individual, whether it's the mayor, the vice mayor, or any of the other council members or staff or whatever. That's where I think we can draw the line.
Okay, fair enough. So let me just state that my accusation of the charter violations, the mayor admitted to.
Okay, this
on the
is,
tape.
I've had enough,
Okay?
excuse me, but I'm had
So,
enough, so either we're going to.
I don't want to,
either we're going to
bog the
address
meeting
this or
down
not.
any further. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to respond to this because I've about reached my limit of silliness, okay? I do not have anything to do with elections. If you bothered staying to the meeting and didn't walk out, which you did, you would have heard the comments that were made. I have nothing to do with scheduling or not scheduling the swearing in of individuals. And let me be clear, I'm going to finish, you don't have the floor. On the 20th or the 21st, Manager Manners, did I ever direct you in any way, shape, or form to move up or down an election?
No, you did not.
Thank you.
I think that's actually swearing in is the reference.
It's a swearing in.
The swearing, did I ever ask you to delay a meeting?
No.
In the history of this village, have we ever moved up meetings, to your knowledge, historically, within 10 days? I'm not aware of us doing that. In other words, you've always done the next meeting. I'm not finished. Thank you. Let me finish, Attorney Heron. I have the floor. What is really ridiculous here is there was 2 weekends between, it was on the 20th, and my comments were made nothing more than looking at a calendar. If you look at the calendar on the 21st, you had from the 21st to the 4th. If you count the number of days and weekends, and possibly when it even was arrived here, do we have a date when it was arrived here, Madam Clerk?
Yes, the 20th,
20th or 21st?
20.
Okay,
20.
so you're talking 10 days and then 4 with 2 weekends. I'm not trying to be difficult here, but when whoever wrote that in the charter did not understand that it has to be certified. There's no language in there that talks about the legal certification. But this has nothing to do with me. The attacks during public comments on me personally, because you don't agree, you have your 3 minutes, but you will address this commission by their name, and that's every commission here. You will follow the decorum rules. If you do not, you will be removed from here. You may have any complaint, anything against me personally that you like, as long as you're respectful in how you present it. And that is my ruling. The commission has a right to overrule me if they'd like to. Okay. We're going to continue public comments, or we're going to have a recess. I'm going to ask for recess for 15 minutes. Do I have
If I may, I'd like to, address the issue. Several members of several residents approached me prior to the last meeting for the swearing in to voice their concerns about the charter language. And I think that we all can agree that this past election, in the broader context, not just the village, but the broader context was unique in American annals. And so we had, there is a condition precedent legally to being able to swear in any particular elected official. That is, the election has to be certified. And there's a process, and we have to rely upon the actions of the supervisor elections in Miami-Dade County. I don't know, because I've not done the math, and whether or not the meeting could have occurred sooner or later after the certification. But I do believe the math that I did was it would have been outside the 10 days of the current language of the charter. I think that to the extent that I spoke to those residents, there was acknowledgement that the language probably should be changed in order to account for the statutory requirements under Florida law. And I indicated to those residents as well as to this body that to the extent that we move forward with a charter amendment process, either through a charter review committee or through direct action of this body, we'll make that modification. It does need to be made in order to address that particular issue. Was it purposeful? Was it did it affect any action of this body as a whole? No. Is it, from my perspective as the town attorney, it may have been a technical violation of the charter?
Before you say that, I would like to count the number of days for you.
And I've not done the math, so I'm just simply, you know, we understand the concern. You all have addressed it to this body on several occasions. Okay. I'm more than willing to sit and talk with any resident about the issue and how it can be remedied in the future going forward, and make that offer to anyone. Just reach out to me through the manager's office, and we'll schedule a meeting, telephone conference, whatever you want to discuss the issue.
Commissioner Wise.
If I may, could I just ask you, in your professional opinion, if there was a technical violation, if any, if there were, was the impact of that anything other than de minimis?
Yeah, no. The answer to your question is no.
Do you regard
the violation occurred? It was a technical violation and did not significantly or substantively affect any actions of this body moving forward.
Do you believe rectifying that technicality by revising the charter post this error would in some way create a slippery slope that would allow later flagrant violations of our charter?
No, and just as importantly, to the extent that it takes time to make that modification, if we have the situation present itself in the future, we'll make sure and be aware of those dates. I appreciate the residents bringing that to staff's attention, including mine.
Thank you. Then I think it certainly doesn't warrant wasting this municipality's time or preventing us from advancing the business of the village, which we've come here to do this evening. We're almost 30 minutes into this meeting, and we have an agenda to cover, and this is keeping us from it. And when I hear things like this, law school is a long way behind me, but I remember the Latin phrase, de minimis non curat lex. If it is not a big deal, then please don't waste our time with it. Come to us with solutions, not problems. And it is clear that this big noise over a small technical violation is de minimis. And if we hear further complaints that we're not getting the business of the village done, please just remember that this is one of the profound reasons why. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Commissioner Tudor.
And this will be quick because I want to get back to the public comments, but this goes out to all parties, commissioners, residents, anybody who's watching at home eventually. I think this type of, and I use this term quite a bit, factionalized politics here in the village has been a poison for years here. I've been here 15 years, and it's doesn't seem to get better. I think that we all need, and I've said this before, we all need to be respectful. We all need to be adults. We all need to respect that we may have different opinions, but that we're all looking for the same ultimate goal. We want this village to thrive. It's disappointing as a commissioner to sit up here and listen to this back and forth, and this is not leaning it to one side, it's both sides. Sitting over here at this end of the table, it's frustrating. There's things that I think that we need to be moving forward on, and I think that, and I think we need to do that. And I would ask that if residents have concerns, please, I'm begging you, send them to the attorney or send them to the state ethics office if you believe there's some type of violation or if there's something. Do that. I encourage you to do that, because if there is something there, let them ferret it out and let them address it.
Absolutely.
But this back and forth, it's not getting either side where they want to go. And for those of us here who don't really care about one side or the other, and all they care about are the 3,200 residents here in the park, I want to do commission business. I don't want to have this back and forth at every meeting. It's going to be, what's going to happen today? What's the dynamic going to be? Let's all put this aside and let's focus on trying to get things done that are going to improve this village. We have really important issues that we're going to have to address: infrastructure, revenue diversification. That's what we need to focus on. Now, if there are charter violations, those need to be reported. So I'm asking you, don't just rely on coming up here at public comments at 3 minutes and thinking that anything's going to get resolved. All that happens in that 3 minutes is you're raising an issue, but you need to raise it to the people that can really actually do something if you believe it's a serious charter violation. So do that. That's my advice to anybody out there. If you think that we're not being held accountable, hold us accountable, but hold us accountable to the right parties. This back and forth with individual commissioners and with individual residents has got to stop.
And staff. Thank you.
Am I going, or are we
Absolutely.
recessing? What are we doing?
No, Ms. Anderson, please continue.
Excuse me, Commissioner.
Okay, well, let's
Janie
get on.
Anderson, 119th Street and 11th Place. Regarding the addition to the agenda tonight, conceptually speaking, I think it's spectacular, but I ought to. I was one of 8 residents, including Linda was another one, who in October through December of 2017 presented a visioning plan that we worked on for those 2 months, vetted it through the commission, vetted it out to the community. To say the least, I think it evoked a fair amount of, shall we say, emotions in the community. Therefore, as I always, and it's not just indigenous to this item, I always have a concern of last-minute additions. It's just not fair to the public not to see what's out there and be able to comment. Again, conceptually, I'm all in. Last minute, I have an issue. But I think the thing that most disappointing is the following statements in the backup. Social network postings, emails, and resident comments can send the administration reeling, frantically scurrying to respond to issues that are at times valid, but just as often flagrantly inaccurate, malicious, or intended to distract and inflame. In all cases, a defensive posture and the concurrent administrative scramble are a waste of time, money, and effort. It has to stop. How are we to advance the interests of the residents when we spend so much time putting out trivial fires? Those are very subjective terms. What might be trivial or inflammatory to any one of you, to that resident who has taken the time to write, who feels passionately about something, it is anything but trivial. And it is your responsibility to help defuse situations. We all pay taxes. And small though they are, our taxes go into paying all of your salaries and staff salary. And to ask that our correspondence, our communications, not be offloaded as simply not worth your time, I don't think that's really a lot to ask. And what I'm always surprised is the amount of people who don't understand. If you come in and tackle an issue and you help diffuse it, that issue will in fact resolve. But if you insist on ignoring people,
They don't go away.
Thank you.
Dan Keys. I have to say I 100% agree with the tone of your letter, honestly, your backup. And honestly, the only statements I've witnessed, Commissioner, one of the commissioners on the board, okay, make here have been to denigrate people who have spoken at this pulpit. You're supposed to be able to take it, okay, and go with it, okay. Pass it on, do whatever, ignore it, do whatever you want. But and at the same time, I don't think that the basic, what you went on to say, what proceeded to be said in this backup was that you know, we should have better communication with our how you presented it after you did some inflammatory commentary was good, okay. Second item, I respectfully request that the commission direct the attorney to create some language that can go to a charter review ballot, possibly if before the next election for the commission here, so that we can actually swear in people in accordance with reality, okay. And frankly, the problem here that I had with the charter situation, okay, which was that it wasn't being acknowledged as it eventually was acknowledged by the attorney as existing and real, okay. You know, it didn't get the answers didn't come until 5 minutes before the meeting when the attorney was given the issue, okay. As soon as the manager realized that he could not follow the charter, okay, that should have been communicated to the commission and the community best as possible, okay. You know, can't swear people in according to our current charter because of this, and this, so we're doing it now, okay. It was just a non-issue, and that was concerning. Commissioner, your communication issue is that you're putting forward. I don't know about splitting the community up and giving it to each commissioner. They can do that now. They can speak to anybody they want now. I don't know if there's if you're going to propose specific meetings by commissioners that are organized by the community and that sort of thing. But you know, I would say maybe we're spinning some wheels when you can just answer an email or a telephone call, which frankly isn't done. You try to be respectful, but you know, you don't get any response from that either. That's a problem, okay. I think I said it to y'all in an email or somewhere that
I'm sorry, time, if you could please wrap it up. Thank you.
Mayor, are you really concerned about that 3 minutes? Are you, really, I'm trying to be respectful and get out a few things that I think might be of interest to y'all. Okay?
I'm sorry,
I don't know if it's worth the effort that you're going to put into it, that the community's going to put into it.
so I'm consistent with everybody. Thank you.
Okay, one last issue, okay? Mayor, I would like the commission to consider the fact that the possibility that having department heads come to your workshop and present what they think needs to be done is usurping the manager's responsibility to manage this community and to forward those things from one voice, his, not from individual department heads. I tell you what, if I had done that in my job, I would have been fired the next day by the manager.
Thank you.
As opposed to being supported in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. I'm just going to start off by saying I really don't care if you think anything that I say is trivial, and I think it's disrespectful to people that come to this meeting to speak to be treated that way. And there's no way that you can tell us what to say, that we have to restrict speaking to a commission and not talking about some action that you as a mayor, the manager, or the commissioners have done. There's a case that just went to the Supreme Court where a resident from Riviera Beach was thrown out, which you're threatening to do, of a meeting, and he won at the Supreme Court. And the bottom line was, people have the right to say whatever they please. And you can listen to it, you can ignore it, do whatever you want, but you can't stop them. And that's part of the problem with this new commission and part of the old one. As far as the swearing in, well, I think, yeah, I know, it's hysterical. As far as the swearing in, Dan's right, Chuck's right, that this never came up until residents pushed this. And the attorney quickly said, well, we have a recount with a situation like this, there's no way we could have done it. First of all, nobody knew there was going to be a recount. We could have known the very next day who was going to be in the office. And if this village was following the charter, which I would think they should be doing, then it should have been scheduled to have a swearing in, but that wasn't on the calendar. The only swearing in date was the following month, which is against our charter. Some of us worked long and hard to get that charter passed, way before you even knew there was a commission going on. And it really is, it's unbelievably annoying and frustrating to deal with a situation where you're willing to ignore the charter because these are trivial little matters. They are not. These things add up, and you keep eroding what you're doing, whether it's giving direction, whether it's not listening to a sitting commissioner who is giving emails and evidence that a charter violation has occurred, and you decide to all ignore this and try to shut her up. This, yes, when Rox was trying to speak before she was out of the office. And this is what you better overcome. I think Dan is the only one who gets it here. But it's not going away. And I don't care if you don't like hearing it, you're going to get stuck with it. And as far as following the rules, you're the one who decided to attack residents personally, chastising them for leaving the meeting. It's none of your business, and it was very inappropriate to say anything. You're the one who brings an agenda item when it wasn't put on the agenda.
I'm sorry, time is up. You have 30 seconds to finish.
And that's not following the rules. So if you want us to follow the rules, you start following the rules. Figure out what they are.
Thank you.
Gary Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. Democracy is a messy process. Freedom of speech is a right. We're not an audience, we're participants, but we're treated like an audience. With that said, I'd like to refer to an agenda item that Commissioner Tudor has put on the agenda about resident communications. I understand what you want to talk about, but in broader picture, if we're really going to think about resident communications, case in point, we're talking about a workshop on the 15th. Where's the announcement? Where's the email blast? Has anybody checked with the email blast? We have 3 people in our family that's on the email blast. Most of the time, we don't get anything. I've never gotten anything. If we're going to have that meeting, the ordinance as it stands should be posted. What was originally approved by the community and the commission at the time, the workshops, the boards, the resident participation, and what you're proposing, whatever that may be. So that residents prior to the meeting have an opportunity to look at it and talk about it and make comments. If this is simply going to be passed out at the meeting, it's not a meaningful and industrious workshop. And this has been part of the problem, I feel, that there's been extremely poor communications on the part of the commission and the village manager. Thank you.
Ms. Kuehl, may I ask you one question? You said you were not receiving the email blasts, but you signed up for them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Staff, could you look into that, please? And manager? Yep. Who else? Anybody else? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Any other public comments? Okay, close the public comments. Information updates? Manager managed? None? Consent agenda? Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to Well, can we find out what the date she's talking, which meeting she's talking about, the minutes in reference
Is
to?
there one you need to pull?
That's the one we need to pull, because as she's a commissioner, she was here, she was the one that made the comments, and I think that we need to update that.
I already did the correction.
You already did the correction?
Yes.
Okay, so do we,
She already corrected it.
That's what I mean, she corrected it,
She
so I
corrected it.
want her corrections to be in
Yeah,
the minutes now.
it is now.
The meetings on
Yeah,
your
the-
binders are the
You
correct
updated?
one.
Okay.
It's corrected. Could you state the corrections out loud for us, please?
On the meeting of December 4th, the regular commission meeting, on the on the item 6, information updates,
Is it the second bullet you're referring to?
yes, the second, the third phrase was the Commissioner Ross spoke about the lack of the lack of time between the swearing and the election,
That's been removed?
and that was not her comment.
Okay, so that's
I
already been
removed that.
removed. She made another comment, so I want to make sure Commissioner Samari wants to poll them still. She made a comment regarding the accuracy of, Commissioner Ross spoke about the legislative priorities and the participation of all commissioners. She was objecting to that. Do you want to poll it for that reason?
Whatever, I mean, she was at the meeting, she was a commissioner at the time, so she knows.
And you
what-
were here as
Yes,
well.
I
So you
wasn't
wanna pull
here,
that one?
so
Okay,
whatever.
so we're going to pull that item. Pull Tuesday, December 4th minutes. Is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent?
Motion to approve as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, what correction would you, Commissioner Mayor, what is your action on the meeting for December 4th? What would you like to see happen on those minutes?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
That's okay. What would you like to see happen on for those minutes? Do you want the clerk to review
No,
them
I
and
want-
for
I
the
want
accuracy of
Yes,
that?
I want the clerk to review it and to,
And bring it back
and
before the
bring it
next
back.
meeting?
Yep,
Okay.
that's where the public can see it.
Okay. Is there no objection?
No objection.
Okay, consent. Done. Okay, there's no ordinances or resolutions, we're, no old business, we're going to go on to new business. Commissioner Tudum, you have the first item, which is Miami Country Day nomination of a board member.
Yes. Back in November, at the November 1st, 2016 commission meeting, we had some representatives from Miami-Dade Country School coming here discussing developing a partnership between itself and the village. As part of that partnership, the commission was offered a voting position on the Board of Advisors. I believe that given the significant impact that Miami Country Day School has on the village and surrounding neighborhoods, I believe that it would be in the best interest of the village for the commission to appoint someone who can proactively address the needs and concerns of our residents. And so I'm bringing this forward for discussion.
Thank you. My understanding is that, and as I expressed last meeting, I believe, excuse me, I would have to check my dates, but I believe it was early in the year. I had gotten an email asking me to be part of the advisory board. That is different than the a voting member. There's no voting member on the advisory board. I just want to clarify that for your section. There's no vote.
Wait, that's from the tape.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. But my understanding of that was presented to me. I have zero objection. I think it'd actually be a great idea. Do you want the manager to reach out to see whether or not? I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I mean, since I do a lot of community involvement, I would like to volunteer to be on that board if the commission doesn't mind.
Okay, but first, the first
Because
step
here's
is,
what's happening, is that we have to be able to, as commissioners, participate in events. And since I have my own business, I can set my own schedule. And since I do participate a lot in a business, that I would be able to.
okay, but there's a jumping ahead here, which is the assumption that the board wants members. I will tell you that I did call because I was reached out to, and I have not received calls back. May I suggest that the village manager reach out to see if they would like any or more or multiple members, or if they would like that, because it is something they have to ask of us and not something we ask of them.
If I'm correct, and I was, Commissioner Ross might know it, I think that the school already offered for,
That's correct. They sent me an email. I'm trying to...
no, before this commission, maybe before the other commission.
What I'm saying is, there was a meeting, David Coviello was on it.
Right.
When Dave left, they
Right.
reached out through, it was then Manager Rangunen. It then didn't go anywhere. They then reached out to me by email. I'll have to check the date if you'd like. I probably have it. I'll look. And then there was supposed to be a follow-up from one of the staff members. That didn't happen. I subsequently called in phone calls and haven't heard back. But as far as it, I just want to be clear, this is an advisory board member where they ask us. We don't,
Right.
it's not a, we're not a voting member of a board of directors.
I understand, but I want to be sure that we have a member that serves Biscayne Park and actually goes to the meetings that it's supposed to go to, not miss meetings.
There's, from my understanding, as I was expressed, there are actually no meetings. It's if they need you, they reach out to you. But I think it's a good idea to have the manager, if that's agreeable, would reach out and see if they would like multiple members, single members, what the board, and come back with us and tell us what,
I'll be happy to reach out to them.
if that's not objectionable and that's a consensus with the commission.
No, that's just, I just want to be sure that if they do want us, that we're going to have a commissioner that's actually going to participate in it. Because it does represent
Madam
the
Mayor, I
village.
move that if they do want someone to represent the Village of Biscayne Park, that the commission puts it to a vote at the time that the position is offered to us.
Okay, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Next item as well, yours. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes. The other item is in regards to, I labeled it resident communications. This all came about primarily because of the hurricane. When we were primarily trying to get information out to residents by flyers and knocking on doors. In order to try to help facilitate getting information out to residents, I'm not looking to officially district out the village. That's not what this is. This is just more of an unofficial sectioning up of the park into 5 sections. Each commissioner.
For emergency?
Well, for emergencies primarily. However, if the way I see it, if a commissioner who wants to be proactive with residents is, you know, their rotation is section 2. If they want to reach out to residents and set up community meetings, coffee with commissioners, that type of, during their rotation with residents, and they want to do that through each section as a way to have a face-to-face interaction with residents, to keep residents informed of what's going on at these commission meetings, to hear input and feedback from residents, that those commissioners be able to do that. I'm not saying that every commissioner is going to be required to do that, but primarily this is to help facilitate getting information out to residents in times of need. For example, like I said, during Hurricane Irma. I think the manager would probably agree that it can be a little chaotic during those events, and everybody's trying to help. And I know when I went out to some areas to pass out flyers, people had already been there passing out flyers. So this would help basically streamline that process. But it goes beyond that. If commissioners want to, they can also use that time to be able to meet with residents and give residents another opportunity other than this once a month meeting here.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss or Commissioner Samara? I don't know. Commissioner Samara?
It's a good idea. Sorry. It's a good idea if we actually have if we have a commissioner that actually participates in that area. I mean, I don't want a resident in that area because their commissioner is not actually getting involved with them to be calling somebody else. Otherwise, we don't need it. But if it's going to be where 5 commissioners are actually going to participate in it, then I think it would be a good idea.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss?
I was just going to ask Commissioner Tudor if you had sort of a strategic approach to that, if there were particular roles and responsibilities that you saw each commissioner playing in their given area, or if that's something that you wanted to sort of open up for the commission to work out together. I didn't know if you had sort of a specific strategic vision for it.
No, and that's why I want to bring it here today, just kind of talk about it, kick it around a little bit. I mean, for me, the biggest issue is people constantly complain about that they're not getting information from residents. I know we're going to be rolling out Nixle, but that's going to be to get information out during certain events as well. But it's not a magic bullet, so we're going to need to have other methods out there. But for example, myself personally, I could see wanting to use this as an opportunity to, like I said, if I'm rotating through section 2, whatever you want to call it, that, I would hope all commissioners do it, but I'm not saying that it's a requirement for all commissioners to do it. But I think it would be beneficial to residents if we took that opportunity, and now that we have a smaller area that we can really focus on and get the word out to take that opportunity to meet with residents and talk to residents. Because right now, I mean, anybody who's run a campaign understands trying to cover the entire village to get feedback and see what people think and want is a daunting task. This is a way, it's smaller bites, it's a way for a commissioner to get to know the residents better and the residents get to know their commissioners. And you'll rotate through different sections.
If I may. Well, go ahead, Commissioner Samara, go ahead.
Like I said, I think it'll work if everybody participates. If one commissioner doesn't do it, then that section right there is being denied service. I mean, it's being denied really service. I mean, it has to be all 5 commissioners have to participate. And with all due respect, I have seen at events that we don't get 5 commissioners to participate in events. And I think we have to treat every single resident with equal. We can't say one section deserves to get more better reputation. I just don't know, if that's going to be able to work. We have to have participation by all 5 commissioners. If it's one commissioner is not going to do it, then it's not going to work.
Commissioner Wise?
No, I was just going to say to Commissioner Samaria, not to presume that, I mean, this is a duty and a responsibility. Attending an event like a Food and Tunes or something like that, I don't think is really a fair measure of a commissioner's commitment to the residents. I think this is an entirely different role that Commissioner Tudor's asking us to play and would not be something that any of us would take lightly.
And I think it's important to know if, I brought this to commission because I thought this would be an opportunity for the other commissioners to be able to get out there to residents and be able to communicate better with residents. If there's not going to be participation by all commissioners, it's not going to impact me. I'm still going to use this on my own, and I'll be, rotating through sections, and interacting with residents that way. I just thought that this would, if we get commissioner participation, this is a way to really get more information out to residents, because there's a lot of people who don't know what goes on at these commission meetings. A lot of people can't come out here once a month at 7 o'clock at night, but we may be able to work out with different times depending on the area you're in, where you can have some of these informal meetings with residents, keep them abreast of what's going on here in the village. And as I said before, we're going to have to tackle some big issues, and and I think it's going to be a way so residents know what's going on, because you can't rely on an email blast. I mean, some of the stuff we've used so far has been, ineffective. So we've got to be looking at multiple different ways, and part of that is boots on the ground. That's getting, the old-fashioned commissioners going out there and knocking on doors, talking to somebody getting some of their neighbors together for a little social meeting with the commissioner to voice some of their concerns, whether it's,
Yeah, I guess my concern is if they don't know, if they're not being informed now, because they're either, some of them are listening to meetings, some of them are not, I'm not sure assigning a corridor to walk or go around. I love the idea of the personal touch. It's old school and I like it. I'm just concerned with, it basically is what it's asking us to do, is to do the walking and to the talking and the knocking, correct?
Well, I assume, my mother said never to assume. What I would like to see happen is, we've been talking about a newsletter. We talked about a newsletter for months now. It would be a good opportunity, if we decide to do this, to be able to roll this out in a newsletter that's going to go out to every household to let residents know that this is what's going on. Here's your commissioner email address. Here's, I just find that it's,
if I may, Madam Mayor,
much more, I find it to be a beneficial way to get information out there.
So Commissioner Tudor, I will transparently admit that your item for discussion sort of inspired me to pull together my item for discussion, because what I see you proposing, this face-to-face approach to communicating with the residents, is a channel of communication of which we should have many. A newsletter, our website, social media, written, whatever the channels are that we choose to execute on, they are all the pillars of a communication strategy of which we are sorely lacking. And when I saw this prior to the meeting and I was able to review it, I realized that what you were proposing was one very strong leg under a table of communication that as a commission, I think that we should address and workshop together. Invite the residents to come in and share with us what their preferred modes of communication are, what they want to learn about, what is the appropriate content and cadence. And those are things that we can only know by having a work session where the residents can participate and feed back to us to find out if this is the way they want us to communicate, and then we have a strategy and a process by which to put that to work. So I will admit that you sparked me, and I appreciate that, because I think, as you know from my background, it's always been my passion to help define the values of this village and translate them into action. And so if we could sort of come together across the dais and find a way to coordinate these strategies, I think it would serve our communications really well and help the residents understand who we are, what we're doing, and where we're going.
That kind of is why I put the two together, because I had a feeling there was going to be some overlap. Would you like to make a motion? Do you want to continue on with the other item? How would you like to approach this?
I mean, it all comes down to communication. I would say we continue with the other item, talk about that as well. See if anything grows out of that discussion as well that we may see. I mean, bottom line is it's going to be a multi-pronged approach to communicating with residents.
Does anybody disagree that our communication system right now is sorely lacking?
No.
No.
It's horrible.
Okay. So we're all in agreement. I think I put together items twice about communication. I know I've spoken to the manager about it a number of times, but we definitely have issues with communication. So in that regard, I'm going to turn the next item over to you to present.
Okay. But I think we should also, I mean, the idea about the workshop, I think we need to get residents' participation. We need to find out there's people out there that know how to do this stuff. Let's get there. Let's not us only make the decision. Let's get resident participation. So the workshop would be a good idea.
If we may, if we can, with Commissioner Samara's permission, I'd like to go ahead and move on, as was recommended, if everybody would agree, on to the next item, which would actually address that very point, because I believe that's what Commissioner Wise has in mind.
Okay.
Yep. Commissioner Wise?
Absolutely. This would be an open workshop for, obviously, the commission, but all residents invited to participate. Commissioner Samari, I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is what I do for a living. I help large organizations develop communication strategies. And I was aware, I did have the pleasure of reading the vision work that was done by a group of residents, and I absolutely think that should be an input to the larger work session. It should be something that's shared broadly as we go through and we take inputs from the residents and from the commission, so that we can, if you will, put it all into the hopper so that we can come away with a refined mission, vision, set of core values and personality attributes for the village, a brand guideline, if you will, that will serve as a filter for everything that this village does, how we look, speak, sound, and behave. It's an exceptional tool that I've seen organizations of 30 to 300,000 employees put to work. It serves as a filter for hiring. A perfect example, when I was working at Interbrand, which is, I think, still the world's largest global branding consultancy, their 3 personality attributes were intelligent, insightful, and inspiring. And when you first met with HR, before you ever made it to a single manager to be reviewed for a job, the person would have a 30-minute conversation with you to see if you were intelligent, insightful, and inspiring. And if you were not, then the person you were meeting with suddenly had a meeting and you were shuttled out the door. And if we had a set of personality attributes through which we could view all of the actions that we choose, everything we say, everything we do, the way we express ourselves, we would be marching forward in accordance to a singular concept, a singular promise, and a singular value proposition for everyone who lives here. So it would be my pleasure to offer to guide this work session. I'm happy to incorporate the vision work that has already been done. I think there's definitely some good raw material there. But the one thing that I took away was there were no real action items coming out of it or a way to apply it that would give this administration tactical steps and a way to move forward in an on-brand fashion, if you will. So in that work session, Commissioner Tudor, if you'd like to own a piece of that to run a conversation around how that in-person communication might work, I think that would be great. I don't, I'm not the ringmaster. I'd love for anyone who has anything to add to participate, but we pull it all into one presentation. We guide everyone. There's a workbook, there's exercises, people generate raw material, and when we're done, we synthesize it and we present it back for feedback from the residents and the administration.
My engineering and practical side hopes that at the end of that, and that's going to be my question to you, at the end of that we have actionable items that we're moving towards, such as revenue diversification and other things that we need to do. That's my big, I'm the nuts and bolts.
Yes, yeah, the end result, among the end result would be a checklist of criteria that you could measure any action or activity or initiative against. Exactly. It gives you a metric to say, is this something we should do? No, this does not align with our core values. It doesn't align with our personality. It's off strategy. We shouldn't do it, or we should. It makes it a lot easier to make decisions in an objective way.
So budgetary alignment with that. Okay. This is clearly not my area. You have the expertise. If there's, I'd like to suggest, if the commission is agreeable, that Commissioner Wise work with staff and perhaps Commissioner Tudor as well to work with staff on creating that workshop. If there's no objection, I think that also kind of aligns with, and perhaps I'm not understanding, but I do believe this would help us with the SEMP plan, correct? I mean, with the SEMP and some of the other plans that we have to have done?
Yes.
Okay, with the two plans we have, the comp and the SEMP. Okay. If there's no objection, I'll make a motion, I guess. I don't normally, but I'll make a motion to consider, or is there a consensus? Like, do we need a motion, or can we just have consensus on this?
I believe that ultimately the discussion, maybe I'm misheard it, was ultimately scheduling a workshop. So
that
to the
motion?
extent that it should be a motion
Okay.
if you're going to schedule a workshop.
Just one comment.
Yeah,
if I
sure,
may.
absolutely.
When I ran, one of my goals was to have a better communications between the residents and the commission and administration. That's why we're having a meet and greet on the 26th. So if these two items achieve that, then I think it's worth doing. That's the goal of it. So I just want to be sure that's on the record.
I think we're all in agreement on the communication piece.
I just have one comment I
Commissioner
wanted
Tudor?
about Commissioner Wise's item here. First of all, I just want to really thank the residents who were on the visioning committee. I know that there were several commissioners who supported that. I'm always very supportive when residents are being proactive and involved in a positive way, and that we're all working together on the common good. You know, it's nice to see that there's support amongst the majority, if not all the commissioners, to move forward on what the residents have been working on. I think it's important that we integrate that, because there was a lot of, I went to some of the workshop meetings they had at the rec center, and there was a lot of good input, a lot of good information that was coming in that they worked on there. So I just wanted to thank the residents who had worked on that, because basically I feel like they gave birth to this concept and we're bringing it to maturity. So I want to thank them for that. And I'm happy to see that there's support amongst the majority, if not all, the commissioners on that.
Okay, is there a motion to go ahead and ask the manager to come up with a date to schedule a workshop for, I'm going to let Commissioner Wise.
Sure, yeah, if we could do some scheduling by email instead of just trying to figure out a date
Absolutely.
right now, but it should be something that's far enough out that we can communicate it well to all the residents so we can maximize attendance.
Okay.
You know, for those residents who already worked on vision work, if there was raw material that didn't make it into that final presentation because you were trying to crystallize things and you think there might be some valuable stuff left on the cutting room floor, it would be great to have that in advance so we can incorporate some of that material into the work session deck, just so there's plenty of time.
Specify what visioning workshop we've had many of them over the years. Which one was this that you're
I received,
This
I only know of one.
is the last recent one that was done by Janie Anderson, I'm going to make, go ahead, you want, just raise everybody's hands who was here, and then we'll add on top of that, Linda Dillon.
No.
No, that was a resident-generated okay. Is there a motion to go ahead and agree to schedule a workshop?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'm going to have you word it if you don't mind. If you want, either one of you wants to make the motion to word it.
Sure. A motion to schedule a Brand Foundation work session for the commission and the residents.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The last item is one that I brought forth, which was a discussion of expanding the driveway ordinance workshop on January 15th to allow additional code of ordinance items. This came about after discussion with things that are going on in the village that have timely and critical needs to be addressed. And what I don't want to do is have one piece of legislation hold up the rest of things that have to get done in the village that are critical. And I didn't want to, I just want the commission's ability to include anything that the manager sees as critical into that driveway at the same time. It can be a secondary piece. What I don't want to do, and I want to be very clear here, is I don't want to pile on more stuff onto a driveway ordinance. That is absolutely not the intent of the request. The request is to allow additional time, and if we run out of time, we'll have a continuance and then continual scheduling. But I do think there are critical pieces. To that end, I'm going to ask the manager if he would address just a few of them and explain some of the critical needs that you have articulated to me on a couple of them. I think one of them was Chapter 8 on the condemning of 121st. And
there was that one, as well as some of the construction code that we want to look at. We feel that that's important and so forth. It doesn't necessarily have to go along with this particular meeting, because I think the driveway will probably, since it's 7 o'clock at night,
okay,
I think that will probably take that up. But we can schedule another meeting shortly to do this.
Okay, I'm fine either way. I just want to make sure that we, in a very consistent and quick manner, not have one piece of legislation hold up all others.
Right. No, I agree with that.
That makes sense. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner
I
Smeary.
have a problem with this. Big problem with this. This agenda item was put on by Commissioner Samaria, me, in reference to the driveway ordinance. I feel that this workshop should be just the driveway ordinance. If you want to have another workshop to do the other stuff, we need to do the other stuff. I think this on the 15th was for the driveway, nothing else.
Okay. May I explain why, one of the reasons why I didn't want to do it in isolations, and one of the reasons why I absolutely think that all stakeholders need to be here, is we have for years come up with ordinances that come from one direction and then staff has to implement it. And there's unsuccessful implementation of many of the portions of the code. Great example is parking on the medians. There was no legal way for the police to do that, but nobody asked the police. I can come up with incident and section of the code after section of the code where nobody asked the staff. The staff is the individuals that have the knowledge. They work day to day. They hear the residents' complaints. They have the greatest knowledge as to what's going on in the village. An individual resident or a few residents may have their perspective, but at the end of the day, it's the staff that has to deal with the 3,000 residents.
Forgive me, Commissioner Samaria and Madam Mayor, but is the confusion around whether or not staff should attend the driveway ordinance workshop, or if the driveway workshop
No, that's not the confusion.
should include other issues?
No. The last commission meeting we had a workshop for the driveway ordinance. That's what the workshop is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about adding other stuff. We had, and I wasn't going to bring this up until we had the workshop, but we had a 2008 ordinance that had 6 pages. We now have one that has 15 pages because we keep on adding stuff that has nothing to do with the driveway.
That's exactly, Commissioner Smeary, that's exactly why I want staff there, because what they're doing...
I'm not objecting to staff. You're not listening when I'm objecting. I'm objecting to you wanting to add other stuff onto the workshop. That's what I'm objecting to.
Okay.
The workshop is the driveway, not to other ordinances.
Okay, let me just clarify a point. There are things being put in the driveway ordinance that made it larger because they've had no other venue, staff has had no other venue to fix that piece. So in order to get the driveway ordinance down to a reasonable size,
No.
please allow me to finish. One of the suggestions I'm making is that we look at the things that are being shoved into the ordinance.
I don't think you're hearing him, Madam Mayor. He's not talking about the driveway ordinance or other staff attending. He's talking about additional ordinances that were proposed to be discussed in the same work session.
Right.
If I understand you correctly, Commissioner Samaria, you want a driveway ordinance work session, pure and simple.
That's it,
Staff can come, the Queen can come, it doesn't matter. But no other ordinances, for example, what we need to do to condemn the crazy bee house should be discussed at that time. Pardon me for characterizing the house with the bees as crazy. Excuse me. That's inappropriate.
Yeah.
My
I just
wife.
don't think you guys are hearing each other.
My wife can't make it, so the Queen won't be here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Give her my bad.
I mean, your idea about discussing ordinances, I have no problem with. I just don't want it to be discussed on this particular, this issue is the driveway ordinance.
If I may, could I make a motion that it be a driveway work session, pure and simple, and if time allows, the additional ordinances may be addressed after we have come to a resolution on the driveway ordinance?
And may I add?
And if not, those can roll over to a separate
Well,
work
I
session.
want it to be what we voted on at the last commission meeting. Last commission meeting, we voted to have a workshop on the driveway ordinance.
There's a motion on the floor to allow, if time allows, to discuss any additional items. Is there a second for that motion? I'm going to second the motion. All those in favor?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
All those
No.
opposed?
No.
Okay.
And I'd like to comment on this.
Please, go ahead.
Issue. I think sometimes we get ourselves in trouble with some of these workshops. We kind of tackle way too many issues. I agree with Commissioner Samaria. I think we should just keep this, the old KISS acronym, keep it simple, stupid. I think we should just focus on the driveway ordinance. I think the manager, his role can be to, and probably should be, to reach out to department heads, talk to them, have them give him input on what other ordinances or codes there may be issues with. He can bring that to us at a later time. We could have a workshop on
Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I respond?
Some of those issues.
Please,
May I
go ahead.
respond? I'm generally in agreement with Commissioner Tudor that we should keep it simple, but as I understand, the other ordinance that the mayor was proposing that we discuss goes to a matter of imminent health and safety concern.
It does to some extent. We can still move that forward as quickly as possible. Commissioner Tudor mentioned that, perhaps that I should meet with department heads and so forth to get their input. I've already done that. And so that part I'll need to forward to you guys once we decide on a time or a date. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I still want to insist on, in the consideration, you and I have talked about this, and there was no objection from you on this, is the idea that all parties should be present. We continue to legislate from the dais without the parties that have to deal with it there.
Right.
I don't see any negativity in having folks there that need to be there. I know in this case you're inviting Officer Caserta to be at the driveway ordinance piece, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Right,
so
absolutely.
here's, and I'm not overreaching, and I'm not telling the manager, we've had this discussion and he had no objection before I put the item forward. I'm going to make an alternative thought that would
Can I make
solve this
one?
issue. And my alternative thought is if you're concerned about time or overpicking more than we can chew, Commissioner Tudor, perhaps we can have another night to do that, but I'd like it to be relatively quickly so that the monetary outpour in doing this is all done at the same time. We have advertising and things like that. So if you have no objection, can we just have another night that looks at those other issues?
Of course.
Okay. And in close in scheduling, so it's not too far apart.
I don't think anybody was saying that, maybe I'm not hearing it. I didn't hear anybody say that staff was not to participate in the workshop. Who brought that up? I mean, I want staff there. That's just common sense.
Okay. So with that, can I suggest that, is there a motion then to have a second workshop on all remaining code issues that are critical, not all, but the critical ones that are in need for staff to address?
I'll make that motion as long as we publish it ahead of time to where the resident participates.
Absolutely.
And I think it depends on what we hear back from the manager, what the items are.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to pick a date that may be too short amount of time in case it's some interesting or complex codes that we want to dive into. So I don't know what kind of time out you're thinking about.
Would a week or so after that, or 2, work?
I think a week after.
A week after would work?
Yes.
Okay. So, can you, in the same, so we don't sit up here at the dais and do the dates, can you send us dates and that work, and then make sure we all agree to it? So is there a motion that the manager will select dates for a workshop approximately a week after the driveway ordinance workshop to address any remaining critical code issues?
And it will be published.
Oh, that's
Okay.
required.
Yeah, then I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Done. Village attorney?
No,
I'm
we
sorry,
still
wait,
got
I'm sorry,
12D.
request for,
12D.
oh, 12D, I'm sorry, discussion on the decorum rules.
Okay.
And location of the decorum rules.
I noticed that there was a change in the format of the agenda where the 3 paragraphs are up in front, moved from the back to the front. Whose idea was this and why? I'm not happy with it. If we wanted to read it to people and explain to the people on how a quorum is supposed to act, that's much better. But to me, putting this in the front is almost showing the residents off. And I think we need to somehow figure out how to have better relationship. And if I was sitting over there, I would be offended by this.
It was my suggestion. As the person who runs the meetings, one of the things I have noticed is we have continuing escalation with people addressing people by their first names, attacking individuals. These break the decorum rules, and they're, frankly, it was put in front to serve as a deterrent to those actions. However, obviously, it didn't work very well.
Couldn't we just say it to the residents instead of putting it, they leave in the back? I mean, it is the residents' responsibility to look over the whole agenda and read it in the back. I think if we say it before each meeting, take a minute, take 2 minutes, and repeat just what it basically says here. And I don't see a problem. I just don't think we need to put this in the front.
I think one of the issues is our meetings have run historically anywhere up to 5 hours. Most cities are done in 2 hours, 2.5 max. We need to also hold ourselves accountable for the cost of some of the, every time somebody comes up and repeats and spends 3 minutes and another 5 minutes talking about the same things, not whether you agree or disagree, we do have to listen to comments. One of the things said is by one of the residents was that we have to listen to comments whether we like it or not, and they're absolutely correct. But what we do not have to do is have people literally waste time. It costs the village money.
But that's their choice. I mean,
it is their choice. However, if they're going to do things that are clearly not an intent to adjust on the agenda, or not to make it personal, or to continue to disrupt and not allow us to do the village of the business of the village, that was decided by a legal case, and such we have the right to conduct a meeting such that we get business done. I personally, if you put it up front, to me, you're being very clear, you're being very direct. It shouldn't be offensive to anybody.
I'd like to have the attorney address that, please.
Certainly. You know, it is it's within the power of this body to decide how you want to set up your agenda. The statement with regard to the first 2 boxes are required by law to be included at some point in the agenda. Some places, I've seen them much like this at the beginning, and some at the end. The same with a decorum statement. I know municipalities and counties that have it at the beginning, and some of them have it at the end. And to Commissioner Samarian's comment, what I have seen some jurisdictions do is that when you come to, whether it's at the beginning or at the end, wherever it may be, when it comes to public comment portion of the agenda, either the presiding official, the mayor, or the manager, the clerk, or the attorney is asked to read the decorum statement to remind everyone that, you know, we all can agree to disagree, let's try and conduct ourselves in a civil manner. You know, with respect to some of the comments that were made about, you know, this, that, the other, do you have to? There, you know, I was going to leave to the village attorney section to address some of those, but it's up to you all. It's your agenda. You said it, and if you want someone to read the decorum statement at the beginning, then instruct who it is that you want to do that, and we'll do that from moving forward.
Tudor.
Yeah. I know we traditionally had it at the back of the agenda, but I know, as the attorney says, because I looked in this as well, it varies. Some will be at the beginning, some will be at the end. I'm much more of a type of person where, when it comes to disclosures, I like for them to be upfront at the very beginning, not buried at the end of a document, because human nature, whether you like it or not, you typically won't read to the end of a document. Most people won't, in my experience. So I have no problem with it being at the front. I do think that my personal preference would be that the decorum rules be read prior to public comments. I think that, you know, we're not looking, or at least I hope, and I can only speak for myself, I guess, personally, not looking to silence anybody or take anybody's freedom of speech away. But what I would like to see, these meetings on both sides of this dais be conducted in a civil manner, in a respectful manner, in an adult manner. Some of what I've seen since 2016 has been a little disheartening, and this is, like I said, on both sides. So, you know, I think we have to have, I have no problem, I think we have to have something in place. I'm fine with it being at the front. I would like to see that it actually read prior to public comments.
Yep.
I think that way, for those who don't pick up an agenda packet, it's read into the record, it's known, it's there. We're putting certain steps in place, and so I believe reading it at the beginning of the meeting or before public comments is the better process.
Commissioner Watt?
I think whatever it takes to remind everyone to be on their best behavior carries the day.
I've seen it, the decorum statement, right before the public comment section, not at the beginning, not at the end, right in the middle, just before, and that could be on page 2, that could be on page 2, depends on the size of your agenda, and it's just a reminder, and again, you know, for when you get to that section of the agenda, to read the decorum statement into the record.
Yeah, I've even seen it posted at the podium when people go up to speak. I've seen a placard up there with the decorum rules. You know,
I've seen in some communities, the Florida League of Cities sends out the civility resolution during Civility Month. I've seen placards where they've actually put it into the speaking podium as a placard, the civility statement.
Yeah. And I think it's important, and I can't stress this enough. Decorum is a two-way street. It is, you know, it's an expectation we have from those coming up at public comments to speak, and also from those serving the residents, you know, in an elected capacity. So I think it's very important to stress that, because I've, you know, watched meetings where this discussion has come up in other cities, and usually people in the gallery, the public will automatically think that it's directed just at them, and it's not. I'm holding everybody in this room accountable, everybody. And I don't care if you're a resident, I don't care if you're the mayor, I don't care if you're a commissioner, manager, the attorney, the clerk. We all need to conduct ourselves in a better manner. I mean, look, all you got to do is turn on national news and look at the national political scene. You know, I mean, look what it's gotten us. I'm furloughed because parties cannot govern in a civil manner. So I think, you know, that it's important that, you know, we stress decorum, and we stress it for all parties involved.
Agreed.
I make a motion that the rules of decorum be read at the beginning of every commission meeting.
And that, in the location of them as well? In the front?
And that they be mounted on the podium
Right.
as a reminder for all residents who come to speak.
And it goes back to the back end.
And do you want it in the front or
No.
the back?
On the agenda.
I want it on the agenda in the back way it was.
Excuse me, Commissioner Wise has the floor. Allow her to finish her motion, please.
And I make a motion, if the rules of decorum are going to be read at the beginning of every meeting, then I move that it is okay to return them to the back of the agenda. If they are not going to be read, placing them at the top of the agenda is a reminder for all of us and offensive to no one. My motion is that they be read, they remain where they are, and they also be mounted at the podium.
The remain where they are is in the front.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so is there a second?
No.
It's not that big of a deal.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those
No.
opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-1. Okay, I believe we are now on request for placement of items on next meeting's agenda. My hope is that if we schedule the meeting, I will be bringing forth, or asking the actual manager to bring forth any code changes that are imminent and necessary.
Absolutely.
As well as, I must presumably, the driveway ordinance as well. Correct, Commissioner
Yeah.
Sumaya?
Is one of the code things, just for curiosity, is the 121st Street?
No.
Okay, all right, because you brought that up and I was trying to...
Well, yes and no. It's the attorney has clarified for me, and I'll allow him to do that in his report if we can
Okay,
wait.
no, because I think that is important for
One of
this.
when I wrote this, that was originally one of the reasons why that was done. But after speaking to the attorney, clarification, I'll allow him to explain that does not, it's a good idea to have it done, but it's not critical. It's not going to impede the progress of that issue. Anybody else for request for placements of items on next month's agenda at this time?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
No.
Reports, Village Attorney?
Yeah, I'll take up the 121st Street issue. So everyone is aware, the 30 days for response from the property owner have passed. I did receive contact from an attorney who's been engaged by Ms. Roots, as well as a separate law firm that's representing the banks. We apparently got everyone's attention.
It's a party now.
So, and that's good. Apparently, Ms. Roots has had some significant health issues over the last several years, as well as her husband, which ultimately led to his passing away. And so, according to her attorney, who's helping Ms. Roots with some estate issues, she hasn't been in the proper frame of mind until recently to begin addressing other issues. And I said, well, that's great, but that doesn't help me, doesn't help the village, because this has been a situation that's been ongoing for some time. So what I've discussed with the manager and what we've agreed and we've previously told you is we are going to go ahead and forward the matter onto the Miami-Dade County Unsafe Structures Board. As the issue of the ordinance, for those who don't know, we live in a super charter county. Miami-Dade County has some powers that no other county in the state of Florida has, and what that means is that they have the ability within their ordinances and their legislation to say on certain topics, or any topics they choose, we don't care what a local government has done, we are going to require this ordinance to be applied countywide. They've done that with ethics, and thus why a lot of the jurisdictions have adopted their own ethics ordinance. You still have to, the counties is the minimum, you still have to follow it. That's the same situation with unsafe structures. The county has essentially—
Chapter 8, correct?
Yeah, the county has essentially preempted to itself the authority to hear and decide unsafe structure cases countywide. So we now forward that information on to the county. Their staff will take over, they'll open the case, and it'll run its course through their procedure, their process. We obviously will be consulted and be part and parcel of that, and I conveyed this information to Ms. Root's attorney so she could advise her client that they will have to be dealing with the Miami-Dade County Unsafe Structures Board moving forward. Ultimately, it appears that in a perfect world, they want a white knight to come in and buy the property from them and take care. And I said, in all due respect, ma'am, I don't think that the value of the property is worth what the value of the liens are when you add up all the liens that have accrued, because it's not just the villages, there's also several from Miami-Dade County, as well as a utility lien from North Miami. And so they're looking into that. They've asked for a payoff, so I'll forward that request on to the manager for us to respond and provide that information. But I told her, so until the violation is taken care of, the fine continues to accrue. It doesn't matter. You can pay it off on Friday, and Saturday, if you haven't remedied the violation, the fine starts accruing every day under the law. So that's the situation with the 121st Street, and it is proceeding. So we are moving, but to everyone's surprise, including mine, we actually got some response from everyone that we sent out notices to. With respect to some of the issues that were discussed here.
Well, before you go into that, I just want to clarify, one of the pieces that was requested by the building inspector, I believe, manager, you can correct me on this, was to have Chapter 8 should have been adopted in our code. We've adopted the South Florida Building Code, but not Chapter 8 of Miami-Dade County, which is where the Unsafe Structure Board was. So one of the reasons why I brought forth the code meeting, Commissioner Samaria, was for that piece. But you have subsequently told me that that is not a necessity. It's a good, we need to do it, but it's not urgent.
It's not critical. It doesn't prohibit the case from moving forward. Some jurisdictions do simply by adopt ordinance the same by reference. We hereby adopt Chapter 8 of the Miami-Dade County Code as our unsafe structure procedures and follow them. For lack of paraphrasing.
The building inspector had asked me.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Mayor, could you explain what Chapter 8 is, please?
The unsafe structure. It's the Miami-Dade County Code section that establishes the Unsafe Structures Board, their procedures, how they conduct themselves, the notices that need to be sent out, types of hearings, the powers of the Unsafe Structure Board, et cetera, which ultimately, in the case of 121st Street, it would likely end up with the Unsafe Structures Board issuing an order of demolition. Does that answer your?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to some of the comments that were talked about, I am the attorney. I try to, as best as possible, not to involve myself in the normal course of discourse that takes place in the community. I've been your attorney now to understand that there are people who have very strong opinions, which they're entitled to, on a variety of different issues that are opposite from others, some elected officials, some members of the community, et cetera. It really doesn't matter to me. It's not for me to involve myself in. But what I do have is the responsibility to, when necessary, intercede as your parliamentarian to make sure that the business of the village gets done. And it is probably, from my perspective, is the most distasteful aspect of my job as your town attorney that I have to sometimes get involved in, because I sometimes find myself getting into an argument with members of the public and members of this board, or a discussion, a healthy discussion about how we should conduct ourselves moving forward. And so I try not to do that. And when I do, it's because I see no other alternative. And I mean no disrespect to anyone, members of the public or of this body, but sometimes that is my job. And I ask that if I'm forced to do that, that you allow me to do that and give me the opportunity and
I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
The respect as the parliamentarian. With regard to the issue of the charter swearing in, I understand what the charter says. What I would have appreciated as your attorney is that if there was that issue out there of concern to any member of the public, staff, or this body, that would come to me prior in time, 5 minutes before the meeting, which one speaker said, that's what happened. Yes, that is what happened. I'm here to serve as the town attorney, and I can't do my job as best as I can, and I'm very good at what I do, I think, if people don't make me aware of what the issues and the concerns are. I don't subscribe to, and I don't participate, and I don't like practicing law as a government attorney on a I gotcha basis. If you have an issue, members of the public as well as the council, come to me beforehand, if possible before the meeting, and we'll work it out, we'll address it. That's what I'm here to do. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the comment of the residents saying, yeah, we have a problem and let's go ahead and take care of it moving forward, and we will. Because notwithstanding the language in your charter, there's a principle under Florida law that says you cannot have a local government regulation that is inconsistent with state law. And frankly, as the election in this particular instance, yes, it was unique, evolved in a way that you could not meet the requirements of state law and also comply with your charter. And in those instances, my advice and my opinion is state law trumps. And so until the election is certified, you can't swear in anyone. There's nothing to swear in because the election hasn't been certified. Now, can we have figured out, knowing that the 10 days as quickly as possible, given all the circumstances, can we fit it in those 10 days? Hindsight is great. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen moving forward.
Clarification on one point. It says 10 days. Is that assumably business days or is that calendar days?
It says 10 days from the election. And that's the problem, because
Right.
if the election isn't certified within those 10 days, and you don't have time to notice the meeting and all the things that go along with that, you have an inconsistent result, and you can't meet the requirements of your charter while still complying with state law. So that's how that evolved, and to the extent that as we move forward, I continue to be your town attorney, and this issue comes up, we'll make sure it gets addressed. And you can do it either in the context of a charter review committee, commission, whatever, or you can initiate it yourselves and put it on by ordinance, calling for a referendum to change the language in your charter. You all have the authority under your charter to self-initiate a charter amendment. To the extent that that's the biggest issue or concern, I would suggest that the most expedient and quickest way to resolve that issue is in fact through a commission initiated ordinance calling for a referendum on that matter, and we'll revise that language to be consistent with state law, so we don't, while at the same time trying to achieve the goal of having the swearing in as soon as practical given the considerations of state law. Last but not least, the issue of public comment and to some degree additions to the agenda. Yeah, there is a case currently pending before the Supreme Court out of a municipality up in Palm Beach County, where the resident is asking the Supreme Court to rule in his favor that the local government in that jurisdiction violated his First Amendment rights in a retaliatory manner based upon his speaking out against the government. On the flip side, the local government's argument is that based upon the existing case law, that is the one that currently governs how we meet, that they were justified in restricting and having him removed from the commission chambers, the council chambers, because he was disruptive. And there is existing case law, including by the Florida Supreme Court and the federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court, that says you are here to do the business of government. And if a speaker or member of the public, or for that matter, one of one of you all, one of your peers, engages in activity that is disruptive and doesn't allow you to do that, then you have the authority to have that individual removed or stop speaking, whatever, because there are limits to First Amendment rights, the absolute right to be heard. You have the authority, you have the obligation to listen, but the conduct of the meeting should be, again, as I said before, we can agree to disagree, and if it becomes disruptive and out of order, those types of things, and I can provide you with analysis of what some of the conduct that's led to some of those cases, to provide you with guidance if that's your decision. But there is case law out there that says that there are limits to First Amendment rights in public meetings of this nature. With respect to additions to the agenda, I have been doing this for close to 30 years, and in every government that I have worked for, I've had this question asked of me. Yes, you can, but it's not preferred. Whenever possible, add-ons shouldn't be are discouraged, but they're not illegal. And in fact, again, there's some cases out there that say, yeah, you're here, and as long as the public is on notice that you're going to be taking up the business of government, it's anticipated that there may be add-ons and a discussion of items that may not be on the agenda.
And if I may, I mean, on the agenda, one of the items is does anyone have an addition to the agenda?
Yeah.
It's at the front of our agenda. Commissioner Samaria availed himself of it in our first meeting so that he could bring up the Christmas lights competition. So it just seems to me that if it's not going to result in a vote that actually leads to an action, but rather just an opportunity for discussion, we might not want to spin our wheels too much getting upset over something that doesn't really have an impact, but rather gives the commission an opportunity to discuss something.
And the public as well. In this case, you're involving the public.
To hear it.
Last but not least, again, in the context of the swearing-in issue or any potential opinions or beliefs that there's been any inappropriate conduct by the individual council members or the council as a whole, I take those issues very seriously. And most people can find out how to get a hold of me fairly easily, and I'm very accessible. And so if there are those types of issues out there, I ask any member of the public to bring those to my attention, because again, that's important for me to know.
I want some clarification on that, because that's not my understanding of the role of a village attorney.
Well, I'm not saying that
Okay,
I'm
so
giving legal advice to
I want to
any
be very
individual.
careful here.
I'm going to be very
Okay.
clear. I'm not giving advice to anyone, but if there are issues that regarding the conduct and the
But
actions of this body that may be, someone may have a question of its legality.
With all due respect, that is not the role of the village attorney. And I do believe that is not the role of the village attorney. The role of the village attorney is to deal with the commission. However, I have no...
My job is to advise you all and advise staff, but also keep you out of trouble. And
Correct.
There's a fine line. There's a fine
Correct.
line. I don't want to discourage members of the public from bringing
I'm not
issues.
doing that either. There are bodies to do that.
The charter swearing-in issue raised an issue that needs to be addressed, and I appreciate that, and we will take care of it moving forward. And that's I think all we need to really say about that moving forward. So if those are those types of issues, or convey them to the manager, and then I'll talk with the manager.
I think that's
and the manager will
appropriate.
bring them to my attention.
That's appropriate.
So that's the better procedure process, is bring them to the manager's attention, and the manager and I speak on a regular basis, and I'm sure if an issue of that nature is brought to his attention, he will then raise it with me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Manager's report.
Sure. One of the things that we've been talking with recently is our state representative, Dottie Joseph, and she has wanted to look at our village hall as a possible office for her. She's not going to use it as her district office. We just don't have the room for that, but she asked if she could have a satellite office there. And so for that, they would be asking us to, they would be using my office, and I would just build another little office in there, put up 2 walls to enclose a portion of the conference area.
Is there a cost?
So the cost of that would probably be about $5,000. And so
Is there any, are they renting the, how does that work exactly? Is there any
there what?
financial, is there any financial?
Are they
is that-
paying for the changes,
No.
and are they renting the office?
they're not planning to rent the office. I can discuss with them about, paying for the changes
Paying
and
for
that
the
sort of
changes,
thing.
yeah.
This I learned this afternoon that they were still considering, because I was under the impression they weren't. And they, 2 of her aides stopped by today and said, hey, we would like to do this as a satellite office. And so this is coming to me.
Can you get us
to
more
me today.
information on the specifics of what they're willing to, because I just don't want to have a cost to the residents.
Okay.
They have a much bigger budget than we do, so.
Absolutely,
It
yeah.
would be appropriate if that's possible to deal with that issue, and then if
Okay.
there's any other impact. I think it's always very helpful to have state representative and locations here.
And that was my opinion as well. It would be, very helpful to us to have, State Representative Joseph right there and that accessible to us, but we do want to minimize the cost as well, so.
What also is in their ethics? I mean, they have to declare financial, so, I mean, they can't do anything for nothing, because they're representing us. Well,
Yeah.
I'm telling you what the Ethics Committee said, and that's exactly it. That's the same thing. I can't do anything for nothing, so they can't do anything. Rent the space and not pay something.
That I'll have to look into. I'm not sure. As I said, this came up this afternoon, and so.
I mean, I'm for it. I just don't want it to where they
if
get
we
it for
could-
nothing.
Commissioner Samara, Commissioner Tudor, recognize the floor.
One thing that I think I don't want to cost to the village, to the
No.
residents. Also, even if they pay for it, I don't want my manager sitting at a foldable card table somewhere in a smaller space. I mean, I want you to be able to have the space you need to focus on the duties that you need to perform.
Absolutely.
It is nice to have a state representative, somebody that, here, but if we don't have the footprint for it,
Right.
I don't want you to take a hit or the residents take a hit because, you're having some resources pulled from you for her to have a satellite office that she may be here, who knows how infrequent.
How does the village benefit from this? I mean, really, how does the village benefit having?
How does the village benefit from having access to our state representative?
Well,
I mean, you got it right there. You can, when
Yeah.
she's here, you can
I
bend
just,
her ear.
no,
and
I
that's
have a
it.
problem with this. I just.
Okay. In that case, since there is a discrepancy, can you just bring back more information for us for?
On the costs
Yeah,
and
on
so
the
forth.
costs and
Yes,
so
I
forth.
will.
Okay.
So,
And perhaps communicate that at least to us so that if it's a timely issue.
I will. She wants to move quickly, and so if at all possible. And so I'll be getting you that
Yeah,
information.
we just don't have enough information, I think, at this point to
Okay.
do anything unless other commissioners have a different approach.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, we definitely need more information. I don't know if you can disseminate that to us.
Absolutely.
Separately via email, and we can all respond separately back to you with our questions and concerns to try and help you make a quick decision.
Okay.
I mean, I think we can benefit from it, but you're the one that's going to be giving up your space. I mean, you work
Well, I'll
for
be
us.
giving up my space,
She
but I'll
doesn't
be-
work for us.
Well, no, that's true, and I think that, I will be fine as far as the space in the conference area. We would ultimately move the conference table probably over here to the log cabin and use this for our meetings.
No, but then where does the commissioners meet with the residents if they need to have a conference with residents? Isn't that what the village, or isn't that what that's for?
Well, that's what this can be used for as well, and so.
Okay, why don't you just bring me some information?
I think because we are, if it's in consensus of the commission, I think the obvious point here is more information.
Absolutely.
I think we're sitting there. Attorney
Yeah,
Herron, did you want to?
I don't want to put too much more
Fuel on the fire.
manager's plate. I would just make an observation that I strongly suspect, I can't think a particular circumstance off the top of my head, but I know they exist, where other state representatives and even federal congressional members use space of other local governments. Maybe we canvass a couple of those other governments to find out what their relationship is, and let's not reinvent the wheel. I suspect there's some kind of written agreement, which I certainly would recommend that you all, and again, find out. I would, off the top of my head, it's like, well, they should be responsible for putting their own phone lines. Maybe I don't. Those types of things are what I'm sure you all are concerned about.
Details. The devil's in the details. Okay.
As I said, this came up this afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's light on detail, but I wanted to give you guys a head up.
Is there anything else? I'm sorry.
I wanted, the manager had mentioned this to me a month ago.
Excuse me. I'm going to ask respectfully for if you need to talk, if you could take it outside, please. Thank you.
That this was a possibility, and there's been no follow-up until today. So it's of course, the other side always wants to move
quickly.
Their convenience as opposed to ours.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Manager Manners?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Mayor. I don't see, unless it's, I don't see the chief's report on here. Don't we have it every single?
No, that is the decision of the manager.
The chief will be giving a report in February with the updated UCRs and all of that.
Right, but as I discussed at the last commission meeting, I asked the chief that I wanted the residents to understand all the good stuff that the police department has done in the last 6 to 7 months. I think that's important, and I was assured that that was going to be mentioned at this commission meeting. If you read the minute, that's what I was told.
Chief, you want to talk? You want to brag a little bit?
But you want to do it, allow the chief, I don't want to put the chief on the spot either, and it's not on the agenda, and then people didn't know about it. Last time we did this and somebody didn't know, there was a lot of comments and public comments that were negative, that they had known the chief was going to talk, they would have come.
Okay, I have no problem moving it over, but it was put on the agenda the last meeting, and it was in the minutes, because I looked at it, that the chief was going to talk. So.
All right. Thank you. Announcements?
No, does commission comments first?
I'm sorry, commissioner comments.
Commissioner Samari.
Okay. One of the things that I think other cities do is that they have ceremonies, and I don't think the Biscayne Park does much of ceremonies. Like, let's say, example, Veterans Day, Martin Luther King Day. I think that we should have a ceremony, honoring Martin Luther King as an example, and I hope that former Commissioner Ross would still do her Martin Luther King, because I thought that was a great idea, and if she doesn't, then I would like for us to start doing it. But I think we should have a ceremony honoring Martin Luther King Day. Same thing with Veterans Day and all those other days, like all the cities do. Okay. It seems like we make proclamations, and that's about all we do.
So when you say a ceremony, what are you looking to do, sir?
The cities have Veterans Day is a perfect example. Veterans Day, North Miami had a ceremony honoring the veterans. Martin Luther King Day, you can have a ceremony.
You're referring to a presentation?
Yeah, we do presentations at the commission meeting, and it's like almost sometimes 1 month behind or 1 month ahead. Okay. And I think that we should have ceremonies. That's what we have Griffey Park for.
Any other comments?
Just a quick comment. From some of the discussions tonight about the charter issues, and we're talking about ordinances and codes and the like, I think what we have to take away from it, and I think everybody probably should take away from it, is that, as we take ourselves, more serious as a city, and we need to understand that we're probably going to end up, especially when it comes to the codes and ordinances, we're going to end up having to try to find money somewhere to have those written professionally. Mm-hmm. What I don't think seems to have worked in the past, and I think the driveway ordinance is a prime example of it. Yes, we're here to legislate, but I think things get a little in the weeds and a little bogged down, and nothing seems to happen when we try ourselves to write the ordinance.
Agreed.
I would like to see us identify things from some of these workshops and direct the manager to work with his staff and with the attorney to write these and bring them to the commission. what we don't need to do is spend 8 hours trying to go crazy on every little detail. And as Commissioner Samaria mentioned about the ordinance going from 8 pages, I think he said, to 15 pages, it just goes to show a driveway ordinance probably can be written in 3 pages. I've looked at driveway ordinances in other cities, and they're, I think Miami Shores is 3 or 4 pages. El Portal is maybe a page and a half. But I think, if we're going to take ourselves serious, which we do, and we want people to take us serious, I think we're going to end up having to try to find those monies to present ourselves in a more professional manner and have those things from a professional written. And we're going to have to look at the charter and look at it from today's lens and see the whole issue of the swearing in is a prime example. No one did a what if apparently and said, well, what if there's a recount? This 10 days thing doesn't work. So I think, we're going to have to tackle those. I hope we do it with this commission. I hate to see it get booted to another commission and another commission. I know that's happened with some ordinances in the past. But I think, that's one of those things that we're going to have to get accomplished. And it looks like that list of things that we're going to have to get accomplished
It's going to grow.
It's getting bigger, and they're all key things.
I actually echo your sentiments on that, having learned my lesson the hard way on the ordinances. I also agree that we need to define what we want to accomplish and not the weeds, and allow that to occur with staff and hiring possibly externally if needed to deal with ordinances, because we do have a lot of issues with both our charter as well as our codes, and I think we're going to, looks like we're going to be tackling a lot of those. So Manager Manners, I guess you'll be trying to find a way to make that work, as well as the attorney. Any other comments from commissioners?
You're going to like and eat the healthy cookies. That's my comment.
Totally separate. Okay, announcements.
You won't even know.
On Wednesday, January 9, 2019, 6 p.m., we have Public Art Advisory Board. On Monday, January 14, 2019, 7 p.m., we have Code Compliance Board. Has been canceled? Not together. We didn't get it. Monday, January 14, 2019, 7 p.m., we have Biscayne Park Foundation. Thursday, January 17, 2019, 7 p.m., Parks and Parkway Advisory Board. Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019, 6:30 p.m., Planning and Zoning Advisory Board. Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019, 7 p.m., Public Safety Advisory Board. We have a correction on the calendar of commission meeting schedule for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019, and Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. It was prior in as a Monday. The next event is workshop on the driveway ordinance on Tuesday, January 15, 2019 at 7 p.m. And our next regular commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 5th, 2019, 7 p.m. And Monday, January 21st, 2019, all village departments will be closed for Martin Luther King Day.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? I missed your second first, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
The 26th of January, the meet and greet. I'm going to be in Jacksonville for the newly elected.